Patras, Greek pronunciation, Patre, Latin, Patri, is Greece's third-largest city and the regional capital of western Greece, in northern Peloponnese, 215 kilometers west of Athens. The city is built at the foothills of Mount Panichikon, overlooking the Gulf of Patras. Patras has a population of 213,984. The core settlement has a history spanning 4 millennia. In the Roman period it had become a cosmopolitan center of the eastern Mediterranean, whilst, according to Christian tradition, it was also the place of St. Andrew's martyrdom. According to the results of 2011 census, the population of the metropolitan area has a population of 260.308 and extends over an area of 738.87 square kilometers. Dubbed as Greece's Gate to the West, Patras is a commercial hub, while its busy port is a nodal point for trade and communication with Italy and the rest of Western Europe. The city has 2 public universities and 1 technological institute, hosting a large student population and rendering Patras a major scientific center with a field of excellence in technological education. Every year, in February, the city hosts one of Europe's largest and most colorful carnivals. Notable features of the Patras Carnival include its mammoth satirical floats and extravagant balls and parades, enjoyed by hundreds of thousands of visitors in a pleasant Mediterranean climate. Patras is also famous for supporting an indigenous cultural scene active mainly in the performing arts and modern urban literature. It was European Capital of Culture in 2006. Geography and climate. Patras is 215 kilometers west of Athens by road, 94 kilometers northeast of Pyrgos, 7 kilometers south of Rio, 134 kilometers west of Corinth, 77 kilometers northwest of Calavrite, and 144 kilometers northwest of Tripoli. A central feature of the urban geography of Patras is its division into upper and lower sections. This is the result of an interplay between natural geography and human settlement patterns. The lower section of the city, which includes the 19th-century urban core and the port, is adjacent to the sea and stretches between the estuaries of the rivers of Glafkos and Haradros. It is built on what was originally a bed of river soils and dried-up swamps. The older upper section covers the area of the pre-modern settlement, around the fortress, on what is the last elevation of Mount Panichikon, before the Gulf of Patras. Hydrology. The largest river in the area is the Glafkos, flowing to the south of Patras. Glafkos springs in Mount Panichikon and its water is, since 1925, collected in a small mountainous reservoir dam near the village of Soli and subsequently pumped in order to provide energy for the country's first hydroelectric plant. The water is also used for the orchards of Eglikas and as drinking water for the city. Other rivers are Haradros, Mylichos and the mountain torrent Diakonirus. Climate. Patras has a Mediterranean climate. It features the typical mild, wet winters and hot, dry summers, with spring and autumn being pleasant transitional seasons. Autumn in Patras, however, is wetter than spring. Fauna and flora of great importance for the biological diversity of the area and the preservation of its climate is the swamp of Agia, a small and coastal aquatic ecosystem of only 30 hectares, north of the city centre. The main features of this wetland are its apparent survival difficulty, being at the heart of a densely populated urban center that features a relatively arid climate and its admittedly high level of biodiversity, with over 90 species of birds being observed until the early 1990s, according to a study by the Patras Bureau of the Hellenic Ornithological Society. Seismic activity. Another geophysical characteristic of the region is its high level of seismicity. Small tremors are recorded along the coast of Patras almost constantly. Larger earthquakes hit the area every few years with potentially destructive effects. In 1993, a 5.0 magnitude earthquake caused some damage to several buildings throughout Patras due to the proximity of the epicenter to the city. On June 15, 1995, a 6.2 magnitude earthquake hit the nearby town of Ijon, also causing some structural damage to a few buildings in Patras. The Ionian Islands are also frequently hit by even more severe earthquakes, some of which can be felt in the city. In antiquity, the most notable example of destruction caused by an earthquake in the region was the total submergence of the ancient Achaean city of Helike, now Iliki. History. Antiquity. The first traces of settlement in Patras date to as early as the 3rd millennium BC, in the area of modern Aro. Patras flourished for the first time in the post-Helladic or Mycenaean period. Ancient Patras was formed by the unification of 3 Mycenaean villages in modern Aro, namely Anthea and Messatus. Mythology has it that after the Dorian invasion, a group of Achaeans from Laconia led by the eponymous Patras established a colony. In antiquity, Patras remained a farming city. It was in Roman times that it became an important port. After 280 BC and prior to the Roman occupation of Greece, Patras played a significant role in the foundation of the Second Achaean League, along with the cities of Dyme, Tritia and Pherae. Later on, and following the Roman occupation of Greece in 146 BC, Patras played a key role, and Augustus founded a Roman colony in its area. In addition, Patras has been a Christian center since the early days of Christianity, and it is the city where St. Andrew was crucified. Middle Ages. In the Byzantine era, Patras continued to be an important port as well as an industrial center. One of the most scholarly philosophers and theologians of the time, Arethes of Caesarea, was born at Patri, at around 860. By the 9th century there are strong signs the city was prosperous. The widow Danielis from Patras had accumulated immense wealth in land ownership, the carpet and textile industry, and offered critical support in the ascent of Basil I the Macedonian to the Byzantine throne. In 1205 the city was captured by William of Champliter and Villehardouin, and became a part of the Principality of Achaia. It became the seat of the barony of Patras, and its Latin archbishop primate of the principality. In 1387 Juan Fernández de Heredia, Grand Master of the Order of the Knights Hospitaller at Rhodes, endeavored to make himself master of Achaia and took Patras by storm. In 1408, Patras became Venetian, until it was recaptured in 1430 by the Despotate of Morea and its despot Constantine Palaiologos, who thus succeeded in recovering for the Byzantine Empire the whole of the Morea, apart from Venetian possessions. The administration of Patras was given to George Sprontzes, while Constantine was immediately contested by the Ottoman Empire and later, in 1449, became Emperor of the Byzantine Empire. Patras remained a part of the Despotate of Morea until 1458, when it was conquered by the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, Mehmet II. Under the Ottomans, it was known as Balabadra, from the Greek pi alpha lambda alpha iota alpha pi alpha tau rho alpha, as opposed to nu epsilon alpha pi alpha tau rho alpha, the town of Yparti in central Greece. Though Mehmet granted the city special privileges and tax reductions, it never became a major center of commerce. Venice and Genoa attacked and captured it several times in the 15th and 16th centuries, but never re-established their rule effectively, except for a period of Venetian rule in 1687 to 1715. Modern era Patras was one of the first cities in which the Greek Revolution began in 1821, but the Turks, confined to the citadel, held out until 1828. The city was liberated on 7 October 1828 by the French Expeditionary Force in the Peloponnese, under the command of General Maison. Patras developed quickly into the second largest urban center in late 19th century Greece. The city benefited from its role as the main export port for the agricultural produce of the Peloponnese. Italian migrants came to Patras after the failure of Garibaldi. At the same time, Patras was a gateway for emigration to the USA. In the early 20th century, Patras developed fast and became the first Greek city to introduce public streetlights and electrified tramways. The war effort necessitated by the First World War hampered the city's development and also created uncontrollable urban sprawl with the influx of refugees from Asia Minor. In the Second World War, the city was a major target of Italian air raids. In the Axis occupation period, a German military command was established and German and Italian troops stationed in the city. After the liberation in October 1944, the city grew fast to recover, but in later years was increasingly overshadowed by the urban pole of Athens. Urban landscape. The city is divided into the upper and the lower section, connected with roads and broad stairs. The upper section is the older and the more picturesque. However, the lower section is laid out according to the 1858 city plan, featuring a variety of squares. The most notable of these are the Sila Alonia and the Georgiou Square. A number of notable neoclassical buildings are to be found, including the Apollon Theatre in Georgiou Square, the Town Hall, the headquarters of the local trade association and the Court of Justice. A replica of Patras Lighthouse. The city's emblematic old lighthouse, which was at the dock of Ios Nikolaos, rises at the end of Traian Navajon Street, near the Temple of St. Andreas. In general, much of Patras' coastline is framed by roads and avenues running alongside. These include Imayan Coast to the south and Iran Polytechnia Road to the north. Because of insufficient urban planning as well as institutional weaknesses on behalf of the city council, some of the city's coastal areas are not in an ideal condition, with several areas illegally occupied by shops built along the coastline. This is contrary to the Constitution of Greece of 2001, declaring the Greek coastline a national treasure. Main sites. Patras and its region is home to various ancient Greek, Roman and Byzantine monuments, including the Roman Odeon, the Fortress of Rio and the Fortress of Patras. More specifically, the main sites of the city are the Roman Odeon. The most significant ancient monument is in the Upper Town and was built around 160 AD, in the reign of either Antoninus Pius or Marcus Aurelius. It has been restored and partially reconstructed, and is used as an open-air theatre for performances and concerts in the summer. The medieval Patras Castle, in the ancient Acropolis overlooking the city, was initially built in the 6th century AD by the Byzantine Emperor Justinian, having many additions from the period of the Frankish and Venetian rule of the city, up to as far as the time of the Despotate of Morea and later the Ottoman Empire. Its current outline dates back to the second Venetian rule of the town. Today, its interior is used as a public garden. The Roman Amphitheatre, near the Roman Odeon, in Ifstor Street, dating from the 1st century AD, at a period of the biggest development of Roman Patras. Its area has been only partially excavated. The Church of St. Andrew of Patras was founded in 1908 by King George I and was inaugurated in 1974. It is dedicated to St. Andrew, the patron of the city, and is near the seafront, between the areas of the New and the Old Port. It is the second largest temple of Byzantine style in the Balkans. The central cupola is 46 meters tall and is the base for a 5 meters gold-plated cross and 12 smaller ones, symbolizing Christ and the 12 apostles. A congregation of at least 5,000 can attend a sermon within the church. The municipal theatre Apollon, built in 1872 to plans by the German architect Ernst Ziller. The building is characteristic of the 19th century neoclassical style and is in the central square of the city. The Akaria Klaus wine industry and tasting center, which is on the outskirts in Petroto village. It was founded in 1861 by the Bavarian Gustav Klaus and is most famous for its Mavro Daphne. The Patras Archaeological Museum exhibits the history of Patras from the prehistoric era to the late Roman period. The exhibition is divided into 3 thematic sections demonstrated in the 3 large separate halls of the museum: the Chamber of Private Life, the Hall of Necropolis, and the Hall of Public Life. The remains of the Roman aqueduct that led from the springs of Romanos to the Acropolis. The aqueduct measured 6.5 kilometers from the water cistern to the castle. For the greater part of this distance, the water passed through a man-built underground pipe, overpassing valleys and gorges on carefully constructed archways, parts of which still stand, in the area of Aroi. The Roman bridge over the river Milichos, which dates from 114 AD. It is in Agia, in the northern suburbs of the city, at the junction of Aretha Street and the National Road. The Turkish Baths Building, in Boğaziçi Street, still retain their initial use, and are one of the few Turkish baths surviving in Europe. The Patras Lighthouse, a reconstructed pharos, which is the symbol of the city. The lighthouse is situated at the seaside front between the old and the new port, at the end of Traian Navajon Street. The Agiu Nicolau Stairs, Jerichostopoula Stairs, Patria Stairs and Traian Navajon Stairs. Outdoor grand staircases all over the center of the city dividing the upper town from downtown. Parks and squares: Georgiou Square, the central square and the heart of the city. It was named after King George I. The square's fountains were installed in 1875 at a cost of 70,000 drachmas each, a huge amount for the finances of Greece and Patra at the time. It was and continues to be the center of political and cultural life in the city, hosting all significant activities, political gatherings, rallies, cultural events and, most importantly for some, its carnival. Ethnikos Antistasios Square is known by the name of Queen Olga, wife of King George I, and was planted with trees bearing the name of the Queen's Garden. Today the square is officially known as Ethnikos Antistasios, but its old name is the one in most regular use. Traian Simeon Square bears the name of the 3 Allied powers who fought for the liberation of Greece, Britain, France and Russia. The square features a flower clock and links the Iou Nicolau pedestrian way with the seaside front and the dock of Iouos Nikolaos. Silolonia Square is one of Patras's most popular squares. It is 1.5 kilometers from downtown Patras, next to the city's main north-south street, Gonari Street. It features a fountain, many sidewalks, palm trees and playgrounds. A bronze statue of Germanos of Patras stands on the northern end, while a memorial plaque to people executed in the Axis occupation of Greece stands on the southwestern corner. It is surrounded by several shops, restaurants and cafes and a number of modernist buildings. It was completed in the mid to late 19th century, when trees were added, along with neoclassical buildings. After World War II and the Greek Civil War, however, and through the 1960s and 1970s, most neoclassical buildings were replaced by 8-story residential buildings. In the West End, a 15 meters tall cliff overlooks the Traian Navajon pedestrian street, and offers a wide vista across the western Gulf of Patras, including the mountains of Aitolocarnania. The Spinney of Patras is in a pine tree-covered hill, which is dubbed the Gulf of Patras Veranda, because of the panoramic view it offers. The Spinney is ideal for recreational walks and jogging, with its specially formed paths and the shade offered by the tall trees. The pine trees that cover the Spinney were planted in March 1916 by students of Patras primary schools under the supervision of the Austrian forest specialist Stegel. Architecture: the city is endowed with a number of neoclassical buildings and mansions dating from the late 19th and early 20th centuries. In the past, years of neglect and the absence of protection enforcement, as well as recent earthquakes, had contributed to the destruction of several such examples. Today, however, most surviving neoclassical buildings are under a strict protection status. As a part of the 2006 European Capital of Culture program, there was a project for the restoration of the city's architectural heritage. Patras Center is characterized by a composition of architectural currents and trends. Alpha representative example are the facades around the central square of the city. The neoclassical Apollo Theatre, a work of Ernst Ziller, is next to the modernist building of the Hall of Literature and Art, while the majority of the unattractive multi-story buildings on the west and south side of the square were constructed in the late 1960s and 1970s. Today's Patras is a relatively newly built city, as its medieval buildings were completely destroyed in the Greek War of Independence. The oldest surviving buildings are the Church of Pantocrator in Anopoli and a residential building at the corner of Iou Nikolaou and Mezonas Street, built in 1832. The area on the south of the castle, around the Roman Odeon and the Church of Pantocrator, in the upper town, is the most appealing of the city, because of its status as the only area where construction height is limited to two-story buildings. City plan. Patras is the first city of the modern Greek state to develop a city plan. In January 1829, Stamatis Voulgaris, a Greek engineer of the French army, presented the plan of the new city of Patras to the governor Kapodistrias, who approved it. Voulgaris applied the orthogonal rule in the urban complex of Patras. The plan was divided into two sectors, the upper and lower city, with a different city block layout. A revision of the proposal in 1858 was the one finally realized. Districts and neighborhoods. Nowadays, the municipal units of Rio, Baralier, Mesatidai and Vrachnerica have functionally become a part of the wider urban complex of Patras. Apart from the city center, the main districts of Patras are